Have you ever found yourself a little confused by all the buzzwords? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, they get thrown around a lot, sometimes all at once. Well, don't worry. In the next few minutes, we're going to untangle all of that. We'll get right to the heart of what deep learning is and why it's such a big deal. Okay, let's jump in.
So, the very first thing to get your head around is this simple hierarchy. Honestly, the best way to picture it is like those Russian nesting dolls. You've got artificial intelligence as the biggest doll. That's the whole grand idea of making machines smart. Then you open it up and inside you find machine learning, which is a specific way to achieve AI. And then you open that one and you find the smallest but maybe the most powerful doll, deep learning.
Right. So to really get what deep learning is, we're going to zoom in. We'll start with that biggest doll, AI, and work our way right down to the center.
First up, artificial intelligence, AI. This is the big dream, right? It's the whole field dedicated to making computers think or act like humans. This covers everything from old school, simple, if this, then that programs to the incredibly complex stuff that's all around us today.
Okay, now inside AI, we've got machine learning, and this is where it starts to get really cool. See, instead of a programmer writing out explicit rules for every single possible scenario, we just feed the machine a ton of data and let it figure out the patterns on its own. It literally learns from experience, getting better and better over time.
And that brings us to the star of our show, deep learning. This is a very specific and, frankly, an incredibly powerful kind of machine learning. It uses a special structure that's actually inspired by our own brains. It's called a multi-layered neural network. This is the magic behind how your phone understands what you say, or how a self-driving car can spot a person crossing the street.
So, this brain-inspired idea, how does that actually work? What is this neural network that gives deep learning all its horsepower? Well, let's peel back the layers and take a look.
The whole concept is a direct lift from biology. Scientists looked at this crazy interconnected web of neurons inside our skulls and had this brilliant thought, hey, what if we tried to build a computer version of that?
And this visual just nails the comparison. On the left, you've got a real biological neuron. It gets signals in, and it sends a signal out. Pretty simple. And on the right, an artificial neuron that does pretty much the same thing, but with numbers. It takes in some data, does a quick calculation, and passes a result on to the next neuron in the chain.
So what happens when you link up thousands or even millions of these simple artificial neurons? Well, you get an artificial neural network. It's this huge system where tons of tiny processors all work together to figure out really complex information. Kind of like our brains do.
Now, the way this network is built is absolutely crucial. As you can see here, data comes in on the left through what's called the input layer. Then it gets crunched and processed in the middle in one or more hidden layers. This middle part, that's where all the heavy lifting happens. And finally, you get an answer out the other side, from the output layer. This layered flow is what it's all about.
But wait a minute. This brings up a really important question. Why do we need all those hidden layers sandwiched in the middle? Why can't we just go from input straight to output? In other words, why does the network have to be deep?
Let's dig right into that. The answer, it turns out, is all about the kind of problems these networks are built to solve.
So, picture this. You've got two clusters of dots on a piece of paper. If you can easily draw one single straight line to separate the blue dots from the red dots, that's what's called a linearly separable problem. A simple network with just one layer can handle that no problem.
But what about this? This is a famous little puzzle in computer science called the XOR problem. The goal is to separate the purple dots from that red triangle. Go on, try it. Try to draw one single straight line that can do it. You can't, can you? It's impossible. This problem is not linearly separable.
And because you can't solve it with a single straight line, a simple neural network, one with just an input and an output layer, is totally stumped. It literally can't find a solution. And you know what? For decades, this simple little puzzle was a huge roadblock for the entire field of AI. And here's the solution. By adding that hidden layer, you give the network the power to draw more than one line and combine them. It can create more complex, curvy, non-linear shapes. It learns how to solve the unsolvable puzzle. That is the power of deep. That's why it matters. It lets the network tackle the messy, complicated problems of the real world.
Whew! Okay, so we've gone from the big picture of AI all the way down into the nitty-gritty of why hidden layers are so important.
Now let's zoom back out and look at where this incredible tech is actually changing our daily lives.
I mean, the impact is just staggering. Deep learning is the engine running self-driving cars that see and understand the road. It's what allows for real-time speech translation. It's used to analyze medical scans for diseases. It's pretty much everywhere you look.
We can really break down its impact into 3 huge areas. First, you have computer vision. That's all about teaching machines to see. Then there's natural language processing, or NLP, which is all about understanding human language. And finally, reinforcement learning, which is about teaching an AI to make smart decisions by rewarding it when it does something right, kind of like training a dog.
And just in computer vision alone, the range is incredible. It can do something as simple as looking at a picture and telling you if it's a cat or a dog, or it can do something as mind-bogglingly complex as object detection for a self-driving car, identifying other cars, people, and signs, all in a split second.
But as amazing as deep learning is, it's not some kind of magic wand. It's super important to have a clear-eyed look at not only its incredible strengths, but also some of its pretty significant challenges.
And this table really sums up the trade-offs perfectly. On the one hand, yeah, deep learning gets unbelievable results. It can find patterns and data that humans would never spot. But on the other hand, it is so hungry for data. You need massive amounts. And it requires seriously powerful and expensive computer hardware to run. One of the biggest issues is that these models can be a black box. They give you the right answer, but you have no idea how they got there.
So here's the bottom line. Deep learning is, without a doubt, a giant leap forward for AI. It lets machines solve problems that we used to think were impossible. But all that power comes at a price: a massive appetite for data and a need for immense computing power.
When you stop and think about it, it's pretty wild. We've built an artificial brain inspired by our own, and in just a handful of years, it's learned to see, to understand language, to play games, and even to create art. It's already changing everything. So the only real question left is, what are we going to teach it to do next?